Hello, so it's been a while. I know I posted my new era video a while back and then I never did anything. Typical. Anyway, this is kind of a very just out of the blue video, and that's exactly what I wanted to do with my channel anyways. I didn't want to pressure myself to record stuff and just, I know I need to be consistent, but it is what it is. Today though, I do want to kind of ramble a little, yap a little bit. Yeah, some notes here so I don't get lost. So lately, I've been feeling a little bit negative about myself, and I've been planning to talk about this for a while because the feeling comes and goes. There's times where I feel really negative about myself. I know I'm doing okay, I'm working, I'm doing school, I'm doing, the things that I want. But then there's this voice in my brain that just tells me that I should be doing more, that I should be working harder, that I could just look better, that I should be doing more than I am. And it's kind of weird because I also feel very optimistic. I'm very optimistic, I'm very happy. I've been making time for friends, family, and just the little things that bring me joy. I've been really focusing on taking care of myself in that sense. But again, there's that voice that's in my brain saying you're not doing enough, and it drives me nuts. But I think that a lot of us deal with this little voice in our head that just tells us that we're not doing enough, that we should be doing more, that we're being lazy. And it's just it's this inner critic that we have in our brains. Not long ago, this past semester actually, one of my professors described this inner critic as a bully. And it reminded me of a middle school teacher that I used to have. She was an English teacher, and she would always tell us when it came to her writing that we were our worst ever critic. And we can be really harsh on ourselves. And she said there was no harsher critic than our own selves. And if we think about it, if we saw someone being, mean or harsh towards a friend, or, just straight up bullying them, we'd probably step in and say something. So I was wondering, why don't we do that for ourselves? And in this video, I wanted to take a moment to explore why it shows up in the first place, and most importantly, how we can handle it, not by fighting it, but by learning how to better respond to it. And some of these things are tips that I've used in my personal life, but that are also based on research and things that, just do you good for your brain. So, the big question, why are we so hard on ourselves? Well, I think part of the answer is that it has to do with the world we live in. I feel like stress culture has been romanticized in ways that we don't even realize it. It's just become so subtle that we don't even notice it. And I feel like it has to do with trends, like the grind culture, or the sayings that we have to keep climbing to get to where we want to be. And so many people just wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, as if struggling means that we care more. And I feel getting overwhelmed with a lot of things really isn't productive, and in the long run, it's gonna burn you out. We also live in a time where social media is an everyday part of our lives, and we tend to compare ourselves with others. Social media obviously shows us the highlights of everyone, but they don't show us the behind the scenes struggles. And obviously we don't relate to every positive thing that we see. And I know this is a big one. Social media has affected us in so many freaking ways. I could go on and on about this topic, but maybe we'll leave that for another day. So moving on. Social media just shows us all the good things, all the wins, all the wonderful things that are happening in people's lives. But again, it just makes us compare ourselves to others. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with sharing all the wins and all the good things, but we need to remember that everyone is different and we go at our own pace. I know that was something that I had to learn how to think about, because sometimes I would compare myself to others and I'd feel really bad about it, and I had to remember that we all have a different journey. My journey is my own and there's nothing wrong with being where I am. This leads me to another thing. Now, maybe not everyone feels this way, but I know that a lot of us do, where we think that being hard on ourselves is gonna push us to work harder, and self-criticism is just a way for us to do better, and we tend to beat ourselves up over little things of how we could have done better, the what ifs, we start overthinking, and I know for a fact that can be really hard on myself sometimes. If something goes wrong, I freak out, but I've learned to just not spiral as much about it. But I know that sometimes we think that beating ourselves up is somehow going to motivate us, and that never really helps. It just hurts us and makes us feel really, really bad. There is some psychological insight to this. Psychologists talk about something called the negativity bias. It's part of how our brains evolved to survive by scanning threats, mistakes, and potential dangers. But today, that wiring can kind of mess with our minds a little bit, because it's made us really hyper aware of flaws that are real and most of the time not real, and they're just in our heads.
Which is where overthinking came from. Most of the time when we overthink things, they're not real.
But here's the truth, you're safe now, and you don't need to believe everything alarming your brain comes up with, because it's probably not a real threat. And that voice in your head that's telling you that you're lazy, that you're not doing enough, and things like, those little negative thoughts, they're lying. It's just the fear talking, the fear of not measuring up, the fear of disappointing someone, the fear sometimes of disappointing your own selves. I know that can be very hard, and I get it. Just makes us spiral more, and it makes us think more negatively about ourselves. But there are ways that we can rewire our brain to not feel this way anymore. In cognitive behavioral therapy, these kinds of thoughts are called cognitive distortions, because we tend to distort things in our brains. They're mental filters that twist the ways we see each other. They exaggerate the bad and tend to block out all of the good things. But cognitive behavioral therapy helps you change the way you're thinking. As a result, you can challenge all of these thoughts. And in this, you have the method of naming what is happening around you. When you're hyper-focusing on writing a paper and you keep looking it over and over again, and you're just trying to find the littlest details to change, call that perfectionism. You're struggling with perfectionism. When you start overthinking about how, a presentation's gonna go, and you start getting all of these thoughts like, oh my god, what if I fall? What if I trip? What if I lose my notes? What if everyone laughs at me? What if, just what ifs, a bunch of what ifs in your brain, that is you catastrophizing things. Naming the distortion gives you power over it, because it makes it look smaller. Once you think like, oh, I'm just catastrophizing this, you know that what you're thinking has a name, and that probably none of it is real. None of those things are going to happen. And throughout all of it, just remember, you are doing your best. You don't need to earn your worth, and you deserve kindness, not punishment, by beating yourself up over small things. And here we move on to how to be kinder to yourself. Be your own friend. If you wouldn't say any of what you're thinking to a friend, don't say it to yourself. Self-love is not selfish. I know it can be confused to where it's like, oh my god, I'm the best thing ever, and stuff like that. You don't have to think necessarily like that. Just, be nice to yourself. It's how we learn to trust and take care of ourselves, which is very, very important. The more we take care of ourselves, the better we're going to feel, just in general, not just about ourselves, but in general. And we're probably going to be able to work a little bit better and more calmly and actually have more fun with what we do. Another important thing is to embrace our mistakes. I know this is a big one for me. I know I keep repeating myself, but this video is more about venting how I feel, how I used to feel, but the things that have helped me feel better and hopefully will help you feel better as well once you start incorporating these small little things into your life. Embracing mistakes is a big part of feeling better. I feel like we don't allow ourselves to mess up. I used to be a perfectionist. I didn't want to mess up, but mistakes are the most human thing in the world. It's normal to make mistakes, and 99.9% of the mistakes are fixable. And even if they aren't fixable, it's totally fine. We can learn from our mistakes, and it's actually part of growth because it helps you learn, it helps you grow, and it makes it so you avoid whatever happened before in the future.
Believe me, that's something she struggled with a lot back in the day. But incorporating all of these changes have helped her think better about mistakes and herself in general.
Now, another thing that's very important is to catch your inner critic and reframe it. I'm probably repeating myself a little bit when it comes to cognitive psychology, but it's very, very important, and I do have more information in this segment. Our thoughts really shape our reality, and the more we repeat self-critical thoughts, the more we actually believe them, and the worse we feel. But again, we can rewire all of these things. So here's a little practice test that we can do. Step 1 is to notice when you're being harsh and ask, would I say this to someone that I care about? Step 2 is reframing what we're thinking. So instead of being like, oh, I'm so lazy, try, I need to rest and that's okay. I need this time for myself. Step 3, write a self-kindness response. Think about something positive that happened that day. Remind yourself of what you did accomplish that day, even if it was just to get out of bed. Or did you drink water today? Did you get something done, even if it's small? It will feel very, very rewarding. I know that this is something that really helped me. And you don't have to believe every thought you have. You can rewrite the story. It's kind of like when they say you are what you eat. Also applies to your thoughts. You are what you think. So feed your mind with more love rather than fear. And there's a lot of philosophical and scientific truth to this. There's been many philosophers and poets that say similar things. As a man thinks, so he is. But James Allen. You become what you think about. Earl Nightingale. A man's life is what his thoughts make of it. Marcus Aurelius. And you know, even science backs this up. There's something called neuroplasticity, and it's the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated experiences. So if you practice self-kindness daily, you're not just thinking nicer things. You're actually building a new brain pathway that helps you feel safer and more grounded. To be honest, that's really amazing. And it's okay if you're not moving fast. And remember that progress happens in small little steps. This is something that we forget a lot of the times, but I cannot stress enough how true this is. Even resting is part of moving forward, because when you rest, you reset. I was interrupted and now I'm shy. And one day, you'll look back and realize how far you've come just by taking it one step at a time. That's really how all the good things happen. And to be honest, when you look back at them, it can really surprise you how much you've gone by doing small little things every day. So after talking about this, I feel much better. I tend to have a lot of thoughts swirling around in my brain, and putting them out here on video, and I mostly do this on paper because journaling is really good to get your thoughts out of the way and whatever you're overthinking. But this really helps me just because I know I can record and talk about it out loud, and it serves me not just as a reminder for myself, but for anyone else who might feel this way. because I know it's a very common feeling. Next time that you're feeling like you're not doing enough, just remember that that's just a bully in your brain talking. It's not true. You probably are doing way more than you think you're doing. And if by any chance you want, why don't you drop a comment and tell me something nice that you've told yourself today, or something that just brought you joy this week, something that made you happy, just to get your brain working to thinking more positive things that you think about yourself, or a nice memory that happened this past week or month, or anything nice that you remember. And if you made it till the end of this video, I really appreciate it because I know I'm a yapper. Thank you so much for joining me, and till next time, bye bye.